Potential Jaguars trade targets. Let's talk about it. Now, before we get into this video, shout out to this video sponsor, BetUS. Guys, BetUS is currently running a Super Bowl ticket contest, man. How do you enter? Go ahead and place a bet on any NFL line and share your bet slip on X. Minimum $25 deposit. Tag the BetUS official handle on Twitter and tag the friend that you'd be taking with you. Use hashtag BetUSLVIII. And look, the contest ends in 1 week with the winner being announced on the 26th. So if you guys want in on it, BetUS is going to get you guys covered, at least give you guys a chance to make it in. And speaking of Super Bowls, guys, there are plenty of Super Bowl odds out there. You guys can go ahead and predict your winner as we're down to 8 teams left in the NFL playoffs. So definitely look at the numbers, look at the odds, see what you guys like. And BetUS is going to offer you a 125% deposit bonus up to $2,500. It's 24/7 customer service over there, and all payouts issued within 24 hours. So thank you, BetUS, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into this video. Now, I was on Bleacher Report earlier today, and honestly, they wanted me to make a video or a stream talking about different trade partners the Jaguars can have. And, I know a big reason for it is because, look, when you guys see Jaguars trade targets, you're going to click on it, okay? Videos like that are going to get clicks and stuff like that. But I know for me, it's not really my type of video, but I did go ahead and do the homework on it. So, and I do think that there's some interesting tidbits to kind of take from it. So I'm going to go ahead and share it with some of you guys. So when it comes to potential trades the Jaguars can make, I think it's going to be through draft capital, because right now there's really not a whole lot of tradable players on the Jaguars. I don't think, we don't have, like, you would like the Jaguars to maybe keep their youth, and no one's going to want to trade for different big contracts. Like a bunch of people say, oh, we can trade Cam Robinson. Look, no one's going to want Cam Robinson because he's a $17 million cap hit. It's a ridiculous contract to take. But maybe a team wants Walker Little, 1 year left on his deal, rookie second-round pick deal, not that much money. If you wanted to compare what a trade looks like when a guy is on a second or third contract versus a rookie contract, look at the Jalen Ramsey trade. The Jaguars, when they traded him to the Rams on a rookie contract, the Jaguars got back 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick. But when the Rams traded him over to the Dolphins on a big contract, they only got back a 3rd-round pick. You know what I mean? So that kind of tells you the kind of things that really the contracts affect when it comes to trades. And not often in the NFL are there really like player for player trades, unless like a team gets like a Russell Wilson a couple years back. They gave him Russell Wilson some draft picks, and then they traded some players along with it, like Noah Fant, Drew Lock, stuff like that. But when it comes to trades, it's usually big draft pick for big player. So when it comes to the Jags draft capital, round 1, the Jaguars had the number 17th pick. And then the next pick gets a little bit complicated because, look, in a 2022 trade deadline, the Jaguars traded for Calvin Ridley. Now, the Jaguars traded away a 2023 5th-round pick as well as a conditional 2024 draft pick. Now, that pick was initially a 5th-round pick if Calvin Ridley made the 53-man roster, which he obviously did. It turned into a 4th-round pick if he played any snap for the Jaguars, which he did. And then the 3rd-round pick became incentive-based. I think it was like play 60% of snaps, get 75 receptions, 1,000 yards. And look, I didn't even have to check. Calvin really got over 1,000 yards. So that pick now went from a 4th-round pick to a 3rd-round pick. So now the next part gets a little bit interesting. Look, it becomes a 2nd-round pick if Calvin Ridley is extended to a new deal. If Calvin Ridley signs a franchise tag, or if Calvin Ridley walks, it's going to only cost the Jaguars a 3rd-round pick. But if they give him like a 2-year or like a 3-year whatever $1 million deal, then it turns into a 2nd-round pick. So for that alone, I would rather franchise tag Ridley than give him a new deal, because going from a 3rd-round pick to a 2nd-round pick is a pretty substantial jump. And let's be honest, the Jaguars need their draft picks right now. The Jaguars have not been drafting very good in the last couple of years, and now we're starting to see, as guys like Foye Oluokun, are set to go, or like should hope, like where the contract stands, the Jaguars ideally under a perfect situation to get rid of Foye Oluokun. they get rid of Brandon Sheriff. But the thing is, the Jaguars not draft well, so there's not really anybody to fill those roles, and those are big holes to fill. Shout out to Trent Baalke. Thank you for that. So, yeah, you want that pick. So, yeah, if I'm under the assumption that, and also a big thing that comes into it is, last year they gave Evan Ingram a franchise tag. And what that did was it allowed the Jaguars like 4 months to be able to give him a new deal. Like, I think they gave him the franchise tag in like March, and he signed on to a new contract in July. So yeah, it bought the Jaguars 4 months of time. But back then he was the only guy that was really a candidate to really get a franchise tag. This year, you have both Calvin Ridley and Josh Allen. So ideally, you give Calvin Ridley the franchise tag and you re-sign Josh Allen. And but I don't know how the Jaguars brass feels about it. Look, it shouldn't be too difficult with Josh Allen. Look, he is a player that just had an incredible year, broke the single season franchise sack record. He was like, he has going to the Pro Bowl. Was he an all pro? I don't think he was an all pro, which is, NFL thing, but I think he's finished like second most in sacks in the NFL. Look, he plays a premier position. The Jaguars should not get cute right now. You have a great player at a premier position. You give him a new deal. You give him whatever the market rate is. Okay. We haven't had this opportunity very often. And usually we're trying to justify, these different average players and giving them new contracts. This should be an easy one. So that's what complicates things. So ideally, you give really the franchise tag, and you give Josh Allen the new deal. But nevertheless, so I'm going under the assumption that the Jaguars will have the round 1 pick, number 17, the round 2 pick, number 48, and then they're not going to have their 3rd round pick, but they do have a 3rd round comp pick from Jawan Taylor. So that'll be the end of the 3rd round, but you can't trade that one. So the Jaguars to make any kind of big moves, they would have to. It had to be either a 1st round pick or a 2nd round pick. So here's some guys, and day 3 picks. I'm not even going to talk about that because they don't really move the needle too much. So here's some guys that maybe the Jaguars target. If we're sticking to wide receiver, there does seem to be an interesting trade market for wide receivers. One guy I think about is Devontae Adams. Played with the Packers from 2014 to 2021. Traded to the Raiders for a 1st and 2nd round pick in 2022. And things went south in Las Vegas. He went to Las Vegas to play with his college teammate, Derek Carr. That didn't work out. Josh McDaniels was a disaster. The GM is now gone. They have no head coach, no GM right now. It doesn't look like they have a quarterback. I don't think Aiden O'Connell is going to be their quarterback of the future. And they're picking at number 13. You know what I mean? That's kind of no man's land. So they're a team that wants to trade up. Maybe they try to accumulate some draft capital and trade away Devontae Adams. I'm sure Devontae Adams would probably command a 1st round pick or 2nd round pick. That would be he's a good player. Now, granted, his best years might be behind him, but he's still putting up numbers, guys. I mean, look, 4 straight seasons of 1,000 receptions and over 1,000 yards. 3 out of his last 4 seasons, he's had double-digit touchdowns. He's a force, man. He's a really, really good wide receiver. So that's one guy. Another wide receiver you can talk about is T. Higgins. With the Bengals right now, they have a bunch of wide receivers with Jamar Chase being a number 1. They have Tyler Boyd over there too. It's just he might be the odd man out. Now the big question is T. Higgins a number 1? We don't know yet. Now, he'll probably get a similar situation as Devontae Adams, where Devontae Adams got a franchise tag from the Packers, even though the Packers knew they weren't bringing him back, and they were able to flip that into a 1st round pick and a 2nd round pick. I imagine the same thing is probably done with T. Higgins. So yeah, you would have to basically trade away probably a 1st round pick and give them a lot of money. I don't see the Jaguars being that team to do that. I see a team more like maybe like the Indianapolis Colts doing something like that, or maybe even the freaking Texans, because they have draft capital and they have a lot of money. Look, the Colts and Texans have a lot of money to be able to spend, and the Jaguars aren't really the team that's really built to spend like that. Some other guys, maybe like Mike Evans, was a guy that a lot of people talked about, but a lot of people thought the Bucs would be trash this year. But they're still in the playoffs. They're in the divisional round after giving the Philadelphia Eagles the beats by Dre. So maybe he's not on his way out. Cooper Kupp, maybe a guy. Stephon Diggs, I've seen some rumors out there. Jerry Jeudy definitely seems to be a trade candidate, is what it's looking like. So we'll see. Now, flipping to the other side of the ball, if we're going away from wide receiver, one guy I thought was interesting is maybe Denver safety Justin Simmons. Now, look, Andre Cisco is in the last year of his contract. Rayshawn Jenkins had a bad year, especially toward the tail end. Just wasn't playing well, wasn't giving a lot of effort. It was just really disappointing from him. And look, Justin Simmons was a third round pick in 2016, four-time second team All Pro, two-time Pro Bowler. He's had 30 career interceptions. And Sean Payton might be looking to kind of do an organizational shift. Like, with Sean Payton, he's going to want his hands all over the roster. And I don't know if he's a guy that, they want to get rid of him, try to flip some draft capital in there so Sean Payton can build his ideal team. But it is interesting to bring him into a unit that maybe needs a veteran. I know, maybe Rayshawn Jenkins leaves. It's going to be left with like Tyson Campbell, Andre Cisco, Antonio Johnson. And like Darius Williams is obviously a vet, but I don't know. That could be something that they're looking for a spark with a new defensive coordinator. Maybe Justin Simmons is a guy to think about, safety from Denver. Now, other guys, like when I look at the interior offensive line, I was trying to look around to see, like, are there any names being thrown out there as potential trade guys? I haven't seen many, but if they can make a move for an interior lineman, I mean, look, last year the center was bad. Luke Fortner was awful. We have no left guard right now, and we have Walker Little who might fill in there. We don't really know what Walker Little's position is. The right guard, Brandon Sheriff, is old. We have nobody like back. It's just ridiculous the way this roster is built. And it's, as you talk about it, you kind of realize it's like, what the hell has Trent Baalke been doing? Our day two picks the last 2 years turned into Luke Fortner, Chad Muma, Brenton Strange, and Tank Bigsby. Awful, man. Awful. When I don't do a lot of draft work, but I look around and I see like what expert analysts are saying, and then I see like what fans are wanting to do. And when you go back and revisit, most of the time the analysts and the fans are right over the freaking GM because we had no idea what the hell he's doing. But yeah, I don't know. With interior offensive line and interior defensive line, maybe you call around, but at the end of the day, I don't think the Jaguars are going to make any trades. I think they just need to spend their money wisely. They need to trim the roster in ways that saves you money. And, we can't stay status quo, especially when you look around the AFC South. The Texans just beat our 1 year reign. We were supposed to be in it this year. The Texans all of a sudden are up and coming. So that should be some motivation. The Colts should only get better. That should be motivation. You can't stay status quo, man. You got to get better. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And the Jaguars showed that in 2023. So, yeah. With all that said, these are some interesting trade topics to talk about while we're still like 2 months away from free agency. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Like I said, 125% deposit bonus if you use the link down below. And in one more week to enter for your chance to get 2 free Super Bowl tickets. Thanks, guys, for watching. Go Jags.